Good afternoon. I'm Linda Fandel, Governor's Liaison for Work-Based Learning based at Iowa Workforce Development. It's exciting that nearly 300 educators signed up for today's webinar, Classrooms Plus Workplaces, Building Work-Based Learning Partnerships. In a moment, I'll talk about what our outstanding panel hopes to accomplish today. But first, it's my pleasure to introduce Beth Townsend, Director of Iowa Workforce Development, to welcome you and a special guest. Director Townsend.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you to everyone who's taken this time out of their busy day to join us to learn more about how we can help you expand the reach of work-based learning around the state of Iowa. This has been a great collaborative project between Iowa STEM, Iowa Workforce Development, and the Department of Education. So working together, we can really get a lot done. And with that being said, I want to introduce you. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce all of you if you've not had the pleasure of meeting the new Director of Education, Director Chad Aldis. Thanks for joining us, Director Aldis.
Thank you, Director Townsend. I'm really excited to be here today. I'm excited about the early signs of the partnership I've seen on work-based learning. As Director Townsend said, working together, I think we can get a lot done in this space. Excited to listen and learn more today about everything great going on in schools. And so I'll just sit back and listen. Thank you all, and I look forward to meeting many of you.
Thank you, Director Aldis and Director Townsend. Governor Reynolds is a champion of work-based learning and workforce development. The Governor's STEM Council, the Department of Education, and the Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning, all collaborating to present this webinar, are committed to helping you start and expand work-based learning. Interest in work-based learning is growing across the state. If we could go to the first slide, please. Work-based learning stretches the walls of the classroom, connecting academic content to real-world application and strengthening community ties. It lets employers build and sustain an early talent pipeline. It allows students to explore and prepare for rewarding careers, both students headed to college and students who aren't. And with 40% of our recent high school graduates not going on to college, at least not right away, work-based learning is critical for their success. And that 40% is a big talent pool. My role, like all of our other presenters, is helping schools and businesses develop work-based learning partnerships. Iowa's community colleges, including the intermediary network, and the area education agencies also support this work, and so do industry organizations and labor unions. Next slide, please. Some schools are far along with work-based learning. They have an engaging K-12 plan that integrates project-based learning, experiences like job shadows, and eventually leads to internships and apprenticeships. And they reach a lot of students with all of that programming. At the other end of the spectrum, schools typically have some work-based learning, especially in career technical education, but may just be starting to design a comprehensive plan. Likewise, some businesses have their own work-based learning plan, while others are just beginning to think about how to do this. Our shared challenge is ensuring that all students have access to transformational work-based learning, no matter where they live, and knocking down the barriers that get in the way. Toward that goal, this webinar offers highlights of many of Iowa's best work-based learning models. A couple of housekeeping items. Please put your questions in the Q&A rather than the chat. We'll get to as many as possible and post a Q&A afterward. We'll also post a recording of the webinar at IowaWORKS.gov. I want to recognize Molly Elder, Digital Communications Manager at Iowa Workforce Development, and Lindy Eibling, Communications Manager at the STEM Council, for all of their webinar work behind the scenes. And please watch for some follow-up messages from them as well. And if we could go to the last slide, please. Here's my contact information. Please note that each presenter today will share their contact information. We are all in this together with you, so please feel free to follow up after the webinar with questions, to request assistance with anything and everything. We are here for you. So now it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to Paula Wright, Musco Talent Outreach Manager and recently retired Oskaloosa Schools Superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Linda. I feel very fortunate to have lived on both sides of the work-based learning world. both on the classroom side as well as the workplace side, and therefore bring a unique perspective to this conversation. I retired in June of 22 after 36 years in education in the classroom as a principal and as a superintendent. So I have a pretty good idea about how schools and work-based learning operates. This past July, I began my second career as a talent outreach manager at Musco Lighting, therefore gaining perspective from the workplace side of the equation. Next slide. So what is a talent outreach manager? I like to describe my role at Musco as all things students. I partner with schools, middle schools, high schools, and colleges, and I advocate for the importance of multiple pronged approach to work-based learning opportunities, specifically to meet Musco's future workforce needs. On the screen, you can see several of the work-based learning opportunities Musco is involved with, involving a variety of different school districts. If you have any questions regarding how we partner with any of these opportunities, feel free to reach out to me after this webinar. Next slide. As a superintendent of schools, I thought I knew what businesses needed and wanted in terms of workforce, as well as the opportunities that were available to students after high school. I'm embarrassed to admit that I thought I knew what businesses wanted and needed in terms of workforce, but until I walked in the shoes of the business, I really didn't know. What I'm here today to advocate are three things. One is for you to reach out to your local businesses and invite them to have a conversation. Find out what careers are available in your area, have discussions regarding workforce needs and where they see their business going in the next 5 to 10 years. Tour their facilities, have representatives speak to students about careers available to them, and partner with the business to help develop your curriculum. The second thing is to hire a work-based learning coordinator at your school. You need someone who can focus on the work in the area with area businesses. Partner with businesses or schools in the area to fund the position, if that is one of the barriers for you. Work-based learning coordinators generate 2 FTEs in shared operational supplemental waiting dollars for the school district if you share with another school district. Businesses are eager for this person and these services. Third, work to eliminate barriers for both schools and employers. Through conversations, find out the barriers for the school as well as for the employer, and seek out resources to help eliminate these barriers. Today, you're going to hear about many of those resources that are available to you through this webinar. Next slide. My contact information is on this slide. Please feel free to reach out to me if I can be of any assistance. If you're a school district located near a Musco facility and you want to connect and provide some type of work-based learning opportunities for your students, reach out to me. I noticed I didn't put my email on the contact information, so it is paula.wright@musco.com. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. Up next, I believe we have Jeff Weld, Executive Director of the Iowa Governor's STEM Advisory Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula. Hi, everybody. STEM in Iowa is a proud partner on this webinar and the quest for expansion of work-based learning across the state of Iowa. We've been in existence 11 years. I'm hopeful that most everybody dialed in today is well aware of the programming that's offered by the Governor's STEM Advisory Council. A lot of it is very much focused on work-based learning or career-linked learning, as you may know it. Experiential learning, many teachers have been around a while, are familiar with that term. It's more or less the same story. We've rolled out a number of programs in the STEM Council you're going to hear about later today. STEM Best, pre-apprenticeships we piloted with some partners that are here today. The Clearinghouse we co-established several years back. The externships program you'll be hearing about. All of those, but our main thrust in STEM is to broaden these opportunities. Work-based learning is certainly nothing new to the world of education, especially the career and tech ed wing of any school. But the career and tech ed wing, for worse and for better, represents about 25% of the student body presently in Iowa and across the nation. And we're thinking about what about those other 75% of those kids in algebra and chemistry and physics and history and Spanish for that matter, and English literature. All should enjoy the same benefits that career tech ed kids are enjoying through work-based learning. The benefits are well known, they've been well documented, and so I'm just going to indulge a second here in a notion that every teacher with us knows that 23 years ago, the National Academies of Science debuted the Bible of teaching and learning. It was called How People Learn. This is actually How People Learn 2, an addendum that came out in 2018. we know, all of us educators know now exactly how it is that anybody learns anything. If you want somebody to learn something from your head into their head, you know now that it has to be meaningful to the individual to receive and internalize. It has to be relevant to their life experience. It has to be contextual to their community. It has to be applied to something pretty interesting. Every one of those boxes is checked by connecting a kid to a work experience that's linked to some academic accomplishments. And so to us, it's convergence time. Iowa's educators, a number of whom joined us yesterday on a counter version of this webinar, are eager to begin to cultivate the talent pipeline earlier. And so it's an unprecedented area for Iowa schools to be connecting so closely to the community. And then we coincide with what we know about how to inspire kids and help them find their passions by connecting what it is we're teaching to the world that surrounds them. So it's no coincidence that the STEM Best model you hear about, a work-based learning program run by the council, has results that show that participants are almost 2 times more likely to enter post-secondary studies in high-demand fields of computing and technology and mathematics and engineering if they have these kind of experiences. So the table is set, and we're really delighted to join everybody here and share the excitement behind work-based learning. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Jeff. And just a reminder to the audience that everyone's contact information will also be posted at earnandlearniowa.gov following the webinar, so it will be available. And it's now my pleasure next to go to 3 people to talk about registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship: Chris Byam, Jennifer Gray, and Deborah Fox.
Thank you, Linda. Hi, my name is Jennifer Gray. I work at IWD, Iowa Workforce Development, as a registered apprenticeship program coordinator. So I'm going to just take a little bit of time and talk to you a little bit about what is a high school registered apprenticeship program. So a high school registered apprenticeship program it's very similar to an adult registered apprenticeship program, in which it combines on-the-job training with job-related classroom instruction. Also, much like an adult registered apprenticeship program, the high school student will earn wages with on-the-job training by the employer. So once the high school student is finished with the program, the student will actually receive a national certification from the Department of Labor. So with a high school RA program, the school would provide the classroom instruction while partnering with an employer who will provide the on-the-job training piece. The high school can have multiple high school RA programs, which would allow for the high school student to have choices in deciding which career path to take. For an employer, this partnership with the school creates a pipeline of talent in which the employer is investing in the student by training them specifically to their needs. The student can continue to work for the employer, starting their career with the employer upon graduation with no student loan debt. Please switch to the next slide. All right. So I'm going to go over just a few of the components of a high school registered apprenticeship program. So one of the first components is the employer involvement. So this piece is really important because the employers provide the on-the-job training for the high school student. And they also provide what's called a mentor. So that mentor actually works one-on-one with the student apprentice that provides support, training, and just their overall when they're there for like questions and things. If the apprentice actually has questions, they're there to help support that apprentice while they work through the on-the-job competencies. The next component is the school involvement. So the school will actually recruit the students into the program with input from the employer. So that's why the relationship between the school and the employer are very important, that they work together. Usually with a high school registered apprenticeship program, the age to be enrolled in a high school program is 16 years old. Typically with an RA program in the high school, we see students start the beginning of their junior year and continue through their senior year up until graduation. The third component of a high school RA program is the classroom instruction. Many high school RA programs have the option for students to earn college credit as well. So the classroom instruction can come from different places, such as community colleges, unions, the employers. It can come from high schools, online classroom providers, or third-party RTI providers as well. The last component I want to talk about is called mentorship. I kind of talked a little bit about it with the employer piece, but that mentorship is really important when it comes to a high school RA program. So it will actually be an employee within the employer organization who can help train, supervise, and provide support while that high school student is working through the program and working through those competencies of the Registered Apprenticeship program. So I just want to take just a couple seconds just to talk a little bit about some of the occupations that are currently high school RA programs right now. That would be CNA, welding, baker, childcare worker, engineering tech, automotive tech, and a financial teller. But there's many more occupations that we could help facilitate in registering for a high school RA program. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Chris Byam, who will give you an overview of the meat cutting high school RA program at Boone Community School District. Chris.
Thanks, Jen. My name's Chris Byam. Thank you guys for being here. I'm a former high school principal at Boone High School and now an interim division administrator here at Iowa Workforce Development. Like Paula said, I'm going to kind of echo what she said, is that you don't necessarily know what you don't know until you get into these positions and you have these conversations with community members. I think my aha moment as a high school principal was I realized that we were trying to help facilitate growth within our workforce as educators. No matter where they go, no matter where our students go post-graduation, they are going to be an employee at some point or another. Whether they go to college, 4-year, 2-year, military, they're all going to be in an occupation of some sort. And so with that, we started really kind of focusing in on how we could help our community with the employee base. We started reflecting on the standards and the things that we were doing within our school. We looked at our CTE strands. And so ultimately, we knew that we had all the different strands that we have with family consumer science, industrial tech, things like that. But we knew that we needed to get other options for our students, and registered apprenticeship met that need. We were able to take, for our partnership with Fairway, we don't teach meat cutting when we're in high school, but we do teach an animal science class in our ag department that has standards that actually meets the meat cutting apprenticeship with Fairway. We also teach a culinary class within our FCS class that has standards that also meets the meat cutting registered apprenticeship program. And so we were able to take components from each one of those strands. And then we also supplemented pieces of the learning with some modules that were in partnership with Fairway. And so all of a sudden we had these CTE strands, but now we had other options when it came to our students. And so I definitely urge all of you to get in communication with your industries around your community. What do they need? Listen to them. What are the core skills that they're looking at? When you're looking at work-based learning, it's a K-12 type of environment. I talk to my first grader every single day about, these are going to be core skills that you need to know to be successful when you're in industry. And then in the high school space and middle school space, you're looking at training. How can we train our students to go out and get credentials and be prepared for post-secondary success? If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our team. And with further ado, I am going to introduce Deb Fox, who will talk about our quality pre-apprenticeship programs.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to take the next just 2 or 3 minutes just to talk to you all a little bit about quality pre-apprenticeship. I think it's one of those work-based learning, programs that maybe we're familiar with, but maybe not with the specifics. So I want to hopefully try to clear things up for some of us on the call here today. So basically, a quality pre-apprenticeship program is designed to prepare individuals to enter and then not only enter but succeed in a specific registered apprenticeship program. Therefore, a quality pre-apprenticeship does require a documented partnership with an existing registered apprenticeship program. And that's what distinguishes a quality pre-apprenticeship from other pre-apprenticeship or internship programs. It's that relationship, that required relationship with an actual registered apprenticeship program. A QPA has defined framework that's outlined by the Department of Labor. And within that framework, there's a component that we refer to as a facilitated entry or an articulation agreement. And that really basically just enables individuals who are in a quality pre-apprenticeship to enter directly into the documented partner registered apprenticeship upon completion. And then folks, even they're able to get credit. So for if it's articulated by the documented RA sponsor partner, they can actually do their QPA, learn those competencies and even some of the related training instruction, and then transfer that credit that they've done into an actual registered apprenticeship program. So it's a great concept. And that again is kind of what makes a quality pre-apprenticeship unique. And also a quality pre-apprenticeship does require some of the same things that a traditional registered apprenticeship requires, just not quite to the extent or maybe not as intense. So it does, a quality pre-apprenticeship still does require meaningful hands-on training. That could be simulated training that is formulated by the documented RA sponsor and the high school or the community college or any other educational institution who maybe wants to house a quality pre-apprenticeship program. So it takes the meaningful hands-on training and also the related training instruction, which I think most of us are probably aware that those are two main components within any registered apprenticeship program. So it does have those similarities. They just don't have the requirements of it needing to be 144 hours of related training experience or 2,000 hours of on-the-job learning. But those concepts are still built into a quality pre-apprenticeship. And like I just mentioned just a couple minutes ago, QPR, most quality pre-apprenticeships we do see within like the high schools that are partnering with registered apprenticeship organizations, you know, in the community or within community colleges. But it could actually be within a, you know, employers parameters as well. So just lots of options. I want you to know that if you are interested in developing a quality pre-apprenticeship for your organization, for your school, for the community college, you can certainly reach out to me. I am more than happy to help or walk you through the steps. You can also reach out to anyone else in the Iowa Workforce Development RA team, and we would be happy to get you started in that process. Could we go to the next slide? And then here is, again, the contact information for Chris Byam, who you heard from today, Jen Gray, who you also heard from, and then myself. So once again, feel free at any time to reach out to us if you have questions regarding high school registered apprenticeships, quality pre-apprenticeships, or any of the other work-based learning opportunities that you're going to be hearing about later today. So thank you so much for your time and have a great day, everyone.
So Deborah, Jennifer, and Chris, thank you so much for that great presentation. We have about 80 high schools participating in registered apprenticeship across the state with more than 125 employers in about 30 occupations. And that does not include the 2 pilots with grants that Governor Reynolds has rolled out over the past year, within the past year, in health careers and education, those relatively new programs. So there is a lot of momentum around apprenticeship, but also a lot of momentum around internship. And Christy Valesky is an expert regarding high school internship based at the Iowa Department of Education. So Christy, we'll let you take it from there, please.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Linda. It's great to join you all today. Again, my name is Christy Valesky. I oversee work-based learning at the Iowa Department of Education for schools and colleges. So today I'm going to be talking to you about internships, and internships are a set time period where a student learner is placed with an employer and they have a set number of learning objectives and skills that they're expected to learn while they're at their internship. And this provides tremendous value, not only to the student learner, to the school, but also to the employer. So from the employer's perspective, they're receiving a return on their investment by students being able to contribute to real projects, and students in turn are able to complete projects that extend their learning. So although they may have taken all the courses available at the school district and they're interested in a particular career path, they can continue their learning to make sure that's a deeper dive of what it is that they want to do and ensure that that's the path they want to take before graduating high school. That experience may lead to employment, but that is entirely up to the choice of the employer and the student involved. On the next slide, you'll see a series of values for the students. The internships will provide that learning extension I was just talking about, either careers that are available in the school or extensions after they've taken certain learnings. It also provides professional skill development for students, and they can learn specific career skills related to their career path of interest to provide success in the future. And lastly, it's a great connection to the community. If we really want students to invest in their local communities and stay in Iowa, we need to be able to connect those great careers that we have. So working with employers to making sure that students are not doing entry-level tasks, but they're actually being involved in the organization to do real work, to see the value of that career and make sure it makes sense for them. When it comes to actually doing an internship, on the school's end, there's a series of things that you should be doing to create a sustainable program. A lot of that is setting up programming forms, making sure you have processes in place to minimize liability. So we have an internship toolkit on the department's website. And on the next slide, it actually has a direct link to the website so that you can access that toolkit and download it. It does provide districts with a step-by-step process so that you're able to make those decisions locally. There's several decisions or options and examples in that toolkit for each step along the way so that you can make make a decision that makes the most sense for you and your district. I would encourage you to be actively engaged with this work. As you work with employers, you're going to be advocating for student projects and experiences, as well as providing some coaching for the student to make sure that they are on track. So with that, again, just please reach out to me if you're planning a high school internship program. I'm happy to help you. That's what I do on a regular basis, is help school districts with a variety of programming. But again, happy to help you work through the logistics for your high school internship program. Back to you, Linda.
Thank you, Christy. That's a great overview. And there are some amazing resources on the Department of Ed's work-based learning website, so well worth checking out. And with that, we will go to Karen Evans to talk about the summer youth intern program that is housed at Iowa Workforce Development. Karen?
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Evans, and I'm the program manager for the Future Ready Iowa Summer Youth Internship Program through Iowa Workforce Development. The 2023 Summer Youth Opportunity recently closed in Iowa Grants the end of February, and we are currently in the process of reviewing and awarding projects. I would like to share some general information about the Summer Youth Internship Grant in hopes that you will have interest in next year's opportunity. The intent of the 2023 Summer Youth Internship Program is to provide high school students and youth between the ages of 14 and 24 internship opportunities that allow youth to explore and prepare for high-demand careers, gain work experience, and develop personal attributes necessary to succeed in the workplace. The target audience for participants includes high school youth who are at risk of not graduating, youth who are from low-income households, youth who are from communities underrepresented in the Iowa workforce, or youth who otherwise face barriers to success and upward mobility in the labor market. The 2023 opportunity incorporated partnership with IowaWORKS Title I to target the most at-risk participants. Applicants partnering with IowaWORKS Title I to recruit participants received priority funding. Depending on the success of this year's program, we will evaluate whether this is something we want to continue in the future with this partnership. Next slide. As I stated, the intent of the opportunity is for the programs to be in high demand occupations. A high demand occupation is defined as a job identified as having a substantial work opportunity available in and a lack of genuine qualified applicants for in the state of Iowa. Job categories include advanced manufacturing production, installation and maintenance, construction, education, engineering, healthcare and biosciences, information technology, IT and mathematics, management, and business and financial operations. Applicants were required to explain how their project fit into this definition of a high-demand job. So for the summer youth internship opportunity, the project period is a minimum of 6 weeks between the 1st of May and the end of August. Participants are required to participate for a minimum of 6 weeks. Our goal with the Summer Youth Internship Program is to provide the most in-need participants an opportunity to learn skills, gain work experience, and develop personal attributes to succeed in the workplace. This year's opportunity allowed the following eligible items to be reimbursed with grant funds. Participant wages, we do require that the participants be paid a minimum of $12 per hour. We also allowed completion bonuses for participants, training resources such as curriculum, software, and internet access, program supplies and materials such as uniforms, computers, books, tools, and consumable items, program transportation, as long as the transportation was directly related to the program itself, program coordination, and we also allow 10% of the grant funds requested for administrative costs. This year's opportunity did not allow for wraparound support for participants. However, by partnering with your local WIOWA Title I office, these types of expenses could potentially be reimbursed with Title I funds, as well as other training and support services. Next slide. You may be asking, where do I begin? How do I create a summer youth internship program? We see a lot of school districts partnering with area employers and nonprofits, community colleges, and IJAG. We also highly recommend partnership with your local WIOWA Title I office, again, to get to those most at-risk participants. Sometimes you have to get creative, but there really are opportunities for all school districts to participate. The 2022 opportunity awarded over $2 million in state and federal funding. For the 2023 opportunity, we have $379,000 available in state funding, and we are exploring the possibility of using federal funding to fund even more projects. We anticipate the 2024 opportunity will grow and utilize both state and federal funding. I encourage you to reach out with any questions, and we can work together to create a program that fits your specific needs. I would also encourage you to check out the Future Ready Iowa website and subscribe to our email list so you can be the first to know about new opportunities. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. And now we'll move on to Tanya Hunt at the STEM Council to talk about another innovative approach that Iowa has been growing over a number of years to doing work-based learning.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, I'm Tanya Hunt. I'm the project coordinator for the STEM Advisory Council. And in that role, I help support the growing network of STEM BEST programs across the state. BEST stands for Businesses Engaging Students and Teachers. This funding opportunity of up to $40,000 creates space for business and education to partner in order to create authentic real-world learning experiences for students. These partnerships afford opportunities that are based on needs of your community, needs of the local business, as well as those passions and interests of your students. These are just some examples of how models have used this award to develop a STEM BEST program. With over 100 STEM BEST models across the state, each looks a little different, as it should be, because the needs of each community are different. Programs may operate within the school or sometimes outside of the school in a space provided by a community business partner. Some programs focus intentionally on providing experiences connected to a specific industry, while others focus on just providing project-based learning experiences provided by a multitude of partners for students to acquire those necessary high-demand skills. Some programs even integrate all of this into a current class, embedding that partnership and expanding upon what's happening in that classroom experience. There is a required cost share contribution of 2 to 1. What that means is for every dollar sought for an award, you must also contribute half as a cost share contribution. Don't let that cost share be an obstacle to this. Don't start tuning out because you're like, cost share, that's not something even I'm aware of. It is, all it means is for every dollar that you seek, half of it is something that you come up with. And the majority of our STEM Best programs come up with it through the value of the time of those partners and those education teachers working on this. So it's a superpower of mine coming up with cost share. So don't be afraid of it. We could have a whole webinar on just that. Next slide, please. So despite the differences between these models, they still incorporate a foundational principle of partnership to allow for these students to have authentic experiences to shape these important skills. Only public or private schools of Iowa, though, are eligible to submit a STEM Best proposal. However, you must identify within that proposal who those business and community partners are within the application. You can ask these partners to help you explore and plan to develop your program. Ask them what they are doing in industry so you can apply it to what's happening in your classroom in order for you to mimic that. And you can ask them to be a mentor for your students, or just a few examples of what you might be able to do to get them involved. Ultimately, these programs are meant to foster the opportunities for students. Here's my cue to go ahead, Molly, and advance my fancy, there we go, these high demand skills that we're going to be highlighting. So we know that we need the students of Iowa to develop and have an opportunity to practice and acquire these high demand skills. That's why we are embedding them through this experience in getting this opportunity to participate in STEM Best. We know that these skills also align with our Iowa Common Core and that this experience can be aligned with your existing curriculum. Next slide, please. There is a proposal process that exists with the current time frame of your application portal opening in October and closing just before the holidays in December, so you don't have to sweat that. Typically, award notifications are complete by the end of January. And this affords those partnerships a 17-month window to explore, plan, build, and implement their program. I think it's important to note that this is an opportunity for you to actually have the time to think about what you want this to look like and do that intentionally with those partners. So lots of information thrown at you today. How can you get engaged and where do you start? Absolutely reach out to somebody who is could be a potential business or community partner. Even if it's someone you know personally, it's a great place to start. And having that conversation of what you might be able to do together. Think about how you could expand something that's happening in your course or class by utilizing this opportunity to update maybe some resources and create an engaging, authentic content for your students. Also think about what might you ask that partner to provide in order to be successful. Absolutely, though, get on our website and connect with other STEM Best models. Now that there's over 100 across the state, I guarantee there's some within driving distance from you. These are amazing people, educators just like you who have been there and done that. And it's an expectation of the program that they also share their experience. So they're a great resource as well as myself. So contact me anytime.
Thank you very much, Tanya. So we have been talking a lot about students in schools and employers, but our next speaker, Mark Benedict, will talk about where teachers fit into work-based learning in more ways than one. Mark?
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, I'm Mark Benedict. I'm the program coordinator for the Iowa STEM Teacher Externship Program. I come at this from a career teacher perspective. And I feel like this externship program is the perfect entree to work-based learning, right? If you're one of those people sitting there and thinking that that all seems a bit much and overwhelming, this is a nice, easy entrance. And it really does address the why question that Jeff so well pointed out earlier, that we need to start with a why. So I want you to ponder those three questions on the screen just now, right? The first one from a student: when am I ever going to use this? And Second one from a teacher, how am I supposed to know how this class relates to jobs? And the third one from an employer, right? Why aren't they teaching the things that I need graduates to know? So trying to come up with a good answer to those is what work-based learning is all about. And it was really the impetus to develop this externship program, and really serves as a foundation of what we do. I personally have been an extern and would say that it was critical in my journey through work-based learning, including eventually a STEM best and further addition of our work-based learning in my original district. To date, we have placed over 700 teachers at 200 plus workplaces across the state of Iowa in every sector of business, including manufacturing, healthcare, lab science, environmental stewardship, you name it, energy. We do it all. Next slide, please. So an externship is an extended immersive summer placement of a teacher in a local business. It's a 6 weeks, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200, 240 hours. We pay you $20 an hour. We give you 3 grad credits through the University of Iowa, and we help you develop a lesson to connect your classroom and the host business to each other, which we support through PLC meetings during the summer, and can take the form of either a problem-based learning scenario or a phenomenon, thanks to a partnership we have with Iowa PBS. Typically, this process works with me beginning recruiting businesses in the late fall and through the winter, and then in early April, I begin recruiting teachers, and I continue that recruiting even up till roughly the middle of April. There's no real hard cutoff, but we try to get things wrapped up. But as long as there are openings, I will be recruiting. So we match you with a host that says, this is the kind of teacher I'm looking for. I send them their app. They look it over, they may contact you, interview, etc. Once they select you, then I let you know that and place you and begin the process. We placing you with a summer mentor and etc. Orientation is online in June 9th. And then there's a forum at the end of this summer, tentatively scheduled for July 20th this year, but always about the 3rd week of July, in which we share those lessons that we've developed and the experiences we've sort of had over the summer. I want to post in the chat here, if possible, a link to our current openings map. I just want to note that any of the ones that have a star are already filled, so you're looking ones with a standard Google Map pin. So hopefully that went. Oh, no, it did not. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Thank you. Next slide, please. And here's my contact information. Please note that the QR code on the left is the one for the teacher application. And as I said, we certainly still have openings for this year. Take a look at that map and we'd be happy to hear from you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mark. And our next speaker is really going to take us into the virtual space. We want to create as many opportunities as possible and ways for students and teachers and employers to meet around work-based learning. So Laura Williams, I'll let you take it from here and explain how the Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning works.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay, but I'm on the road, as you can see. The Iowa Clearinghouse for Work-Based Learning, if you've never heard of it, it is a digital space where partners can go, business and industry, community partners can go and create an account and post projects and tag them to different districts, or they can create statewide projects. And what's really cool about the platform is that it is free to every single educator in Iowa. In fact, you have an account already through your AEA single sign-on. So whatever you use to do the AEA training, it's that same password and email that you would use to log in to the Clearinghouse. And so any teacher in Iowa can join and have their teacher dashboard, and that allows you to search projects and apply for them for your students. It's very versatile in that projects can be tagged kindergarten through 2nd grade. They can be tagged 3-5, they can be tagged 6-8 or 9-12. It's also organized by tagging with career clusters. So the 16 national career clusters can be associated to the project, which is kind of cool. So then students can actually search the platform for career opportunities that interest them or that they find relevant. And then also, and this is really great for teachers who are thinking about how can I sort of operationalize work-based learning in my classroom? Like, what does that look like in a math or a science class? And how do I do that? I can search the clearinghouse by academic domain and also that grade level to see what kind of opportunities might align to that curriculum. And so what we're hoping to see is these projects being launched and implemented into the classroom so that students get these hands-on work-based learning experiences, but also simultaneously they're getting credit for their core classroom work. So it's really trying to blend the core curriculum with work-based learning. I often call it project-based learning on steroids because we're really getting kids connected. They're building their network, they're finding mentors, they're learning about careers, and really it's transcending that value beyond the classroom and helping them develop those 21st century skills when working together. On the next slide, there is a link for you to, if you are joining and you want to scan that, or if you have these slides, you can click that. Otherwise, if you don't, it's Future Ready Iowa, clearinghouse.futurereadyowa.gov, and you can find the clearinghouse. And on that website, I just want to throw out, there are some amazing success stories with educators all over Iowa, business partners saying yes, and students sharing their experience on these authentic projects. So definitely explore those success stories on the website. Also, there is a directory of employers, business partners that said, hey, we're interested. So you can look through that directory. And then the big thing on the website is that project board where you can explore different types of projects to incorporate into your classroom. And then I want to point out that, if you're new to this and you're thinking, how do I get involved? Like, I would love to launch an authentic project in my classroom. We have consultants around the state working at the AEA that have been trained to help support you in using the clearinghouse. So if you look at the contact directory on the website, you'll be able to see your local AEA point of contact. Otherwise, definitely email me and I will get you in connections with the right people. But we're here to help you. And one of the biggest things that I would really encourage school districts to do is to consider making a district project board. That is one of our latest features on the clearinghouse. So now all your local projects can be found in one place. All your local business partners know how to connect with you if they have a project idea or an opportunity they want to share with you. We've increased our flagging. So now you can tag projects to elementary, to secondary. There are these visual banners. We have a STEM banner, which is really cool. So we can promote our STEM opportunities. As well as volunteer opportunities, because in volunteering, there's some great ways to get those skills and be aware of different careers available to you. So definitely get in contact and consider starting your own district board. Thank you for having me, Linda.
Laura. That was great. Thank you. And thanks to all of our expert team members. I feel really fortunate to work with each of our panelists, and we all really want to work with you. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Tanya Hunt again to moderate the Q&A.
Yes, great. Thanks, Linda. I'll just echo, this is an amazing group. It's fun to have everybody in a one-stop shop. So take advantage of it and post those questions in the Q&A. The first one I'm going to actually take because there is someone who missed the cost share spiel. And so I will be brief. I think I put a resource if you could connect with it. There's an example we have on our website, examples of what you can use for cost share. What cost share means is a 2-to-1 cost share requirement. Means if you are applying for a full $40,000, your cost share requirement would be $20,000. So 2-to-1 means for every $2 of an award, you have to contribute $1 in cost share. And cost share, like I say, doesn't mean you have to hold a bake sale or do some fundraising. Doesn't mean you have to cut programming. It means you have to account for your contributions. It's setting you up to be sustainable is the concept of it. So like you said, I don't want to take up our entire webinar because I could, and there is a cost share webinar on our website, so we'll save you some time. I did have a question posed for our internships people. They had a question that they weren't sure what the total number of hours was. It 2,000 hours of work that was required, and what if a student what would happen if a student couldn't complete that? Are they penalized for that, or what would the consequences be? And how does that work with balancing in additional like extracurriculars?
I don't think that was internships. Internships are usually 120 hours.
It's registered
200 hours.
apprenticeship.
I think that's registered apprenticeship.
Wrong
Yeah.
program. All right, Chris Byam.
You're all good, no worries. One of the things I'd like to share is just kind of how the Iowa Health Careers, we did a grant last year and this year using Pella as a model. Pella has their model actually, they started going into their junior year. They have some on-the-job experiences there, related training throughout their junior, senior year. They also have time in between in the summers, but they end their high school, they graduate with all the related training pieces, but they still have 850 hours post-graduation that they can get the 2,000 hours. So it's a continuation. In some of those instances, it's kind of like a soft handoff to the business, where the business then finishes off the OJT. I believe the rest of the question also kind of talked about what happens if they quit. There's no fines or penalties or anything like that. They can walk away from the program. Linda, do you have something you want to add?
The only just maybe an additional emphasis that the 2,000 hours for registered apprenticeship is a minimum number of on-the-job training hours. And as Chris said, they can spill over after high school graduation for longer term apprenticeships.
And I think as educators, one of the things with registered apprenticeship, we're not working within the context of school time frames. Registered apprenticeship can be customizable and can change. So that's kind of why there's a little bit of flexibility to it. Jen, Deb, anything you want to add?
Nope, that was perfect. Linda, and you tag teamed it very well. So,
okay, thank you.
But we're here if you have questions, or if any of the audience has any questions, after today, they can certainly email us and we can, get back to them then too.
Sure.
Great, thank you, panelists. So another one for anyone, are there any programs that would specifically be beneficial or connect with students that have an IEP or 504 plan?
I can hit this one too. I actually had a student with an IEP that went through a pre-apprenticeship program. The apprenticeship program at a local plumber, the plumber actually gave him credit after he graduated for year one of his registered apprenticeship program. You want to talk about a retention piece. That kid was bought in. He bought a new truck, had a house, and all the kids were wondering what he was doing. So one of the things for businesses, it's a 93% retention rate when it comes to registered apprenticeship. The kids will buy in. Special education is no different. I think, to be honest, if you can build it and revolve it, and it's for any type of student, to be honest with you. But it really, that student was struggling with English classes. The owner was like, hey, we want you in this business, and he never missed an English class again the rest of the year. So educators, there's that component too.
I had actually answered this one a little bit in the chat. When it comes to any sort of accommodation that students need, we should be looking to make that accommodation. That should not be a deterrent for participation in work-based learning. So if you're struggling to make sure that there's equitable access for students needing some sort of accommodation, please reach out. I'm happy to connect and talk through some of the things that we've been doing to ensure that there's equitable access for all students.
Chrissy, I appreciate that too. That's one of the components that you can add within an IEP and have discussions. I know that we had a student that was blind. We started working in 7th and 8th grade with the IEP in terms of career development for that student and gave them different types of projects and things like that with local business partners on the backside of his high school career, just to make sure that we were providing services for him. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of different ways that you can look at it within internships, registered apprenticeships, projects, things like that. It can hit any of the spectrum that you're talking about.
Excellent. Do we have time for one more question?
We do.
Excellent. Okay. And I would just echo my colleagues in those sentiments. I think that our goal is that these opportunities be provided to all of Iowa's students. So please utilize all of us. The last question then would be, what opportunities are there for students and teachers to work with a variety of entrepreneurial startups? I think they particularly highlighted JPEC and the Jacobson Institute. I know that there are a lot of our STEM best models that have connected with these resources. So they utilize their STEM best opportunity to do that. Absolutely. Are there others that have ideas within your programs?
If I could jump in for a minute, Tanya. If you have in your community or elsewhere in the state, because we can also do things virtually, if you have an employer in mind or a nonprofit, an entrepreneurial startup that you would like to work with and you'd like us to help facilitate a connection to see what level of interest there might be in starting a partnership, we are happy to do that. We're also happy to help build programs as you'd like us to. And as has been mentioned already, to connect you to other school districts and non-public schools doing innovative things on the ground. A lot of our best ideas come from the innovation that's happening in schools with employers across the state. So, you know, it's a reciprocal relationship where we learn from what's happening on the ground, and then we try to share that out and build on it. With that, I think our time is almost up. So Tanya, thank you for moderating the Q&A. Thanks again to all of our panelists and our audience. And I want to turn it over to Jeff Will to close us out today. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Stating the obvious, clearly, Iowa is well equipped and very intent on expanding work-based learning. So pick your entry point or pick your expansion point, as many of you are already involved in a number of these programs. It's a win-win-win. That's overstated, but in this case, I know you'll agree, it's a win for teachers whose coursework can be enlivened by a partnership. It's a win for employers who have access to cultivating the future talent pipeline through you and your students. But most importantly, I know we'll all agree, it's a win for students who find purpose and passion in their school day through these partnerships. So whether it's apprenticeships or pre-apprenticeships or internships or summer youth interns, STEM best model or teacher externs or the clearinghouse, we're all really eager to work with you, and so are employers. I mentioned we met with employers yesterday, and there's a lot of passion in that sector to partner as well. So we're really grateful for your time zooming in today. Watch for a survey coming shortly on the heels of this webinar to gather input and feedback on how valuable you found today's webinar. Just one last thing, it's a reminder that this webinar was brought to you by a triad of Iowa Workforce Development, Iowa's Department of Education, and the Governor's STEM Advisory Council. On behalf of all of my partners, thanks everybody for zooming in today. Good luck.